Having discipline is one of the key traits of a masculine and strong man. Now, I consider myself to be a pretty disciplined person, and when most people think of discipline, they think of, fasting, they think of cold showers, maybe meditating, and those conceptions about discipline are completely correct. But some people have misconceptions about discipline and its very close counterpart, punishment. Now, although they are somewhat interrelated, there are huge differences in between the two, such as the actions that people take to achieve, discipline. It's not through punishments, but it's rather through a kind of learning process. It's not really like the negative actions to kind of persuade or, stop a behavior. Discipline is kind of difficult to explain, as most people also confuse it with perhaps motivation. But here's the difference. Motivation is that kind of little burst of energy, a little burst of willpower to do something that, maybe occurs after watching a video, right? A video about like a motivational speaker like David Goggins or Andrew Tate or something. It's that little burst of energy you get after watching those videos or during watching those type of videos that gets you up and moving. Maybe it's going to the gym, maybe it's reading a book, right? Discipline is not that. In my book, discipline is sort of the act of doing something difficult even when you don't feel like doing it. That's discipline. Discipline is the act of doing something difficult even when you don't feel like it. It's taking cold showers every single day even when it's cold outside. It's reading a book instead of playing video games. Now, punishing yourself accordingly to your actions, that of course is the way to build. This is how we all start. But some people take it way too far when they punish themselves for doing something wrong or for failing, and that's just not the right way to build discipline. One of the books I'm reading by Jordan B. Peterson, it's his book called 12 Rules for Life. One of the rules states, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Now, of course, if you do punish yourself based on your actions and accordingly, then there are benefits to that. You need to experience some sort of pain and suffering in order to gain experience, in order to gain knowledge, in order to learn from your mistakes. And some people, like my younger self, thought that punishment was the absolute way to build discipline, right? I remember when I first started, right, my self-improvement journey, I was basically disregarding my own health, like mental, physical health, in order to build discipline. I was practically starving myself every single day to like lose weight, and so that I can practice, fasting. I can practice not eating as much. And I remember that very vividly. And if I could go back to myself and, tell myself, it's like, stop doing that because it's not helpful for you. The main difference between discipline and punishment is that discipline is built upon learning and growing, right? It's like after a hard day of work or after the gym, if you've gone to the gym that day and you feel good about yourself, the day after that, then technically you've built yourself a little bit of discipline. Technically, you've built some consistency towards, making your goals, towards your new bench PR, or towards whatever you have in mind. But discipline is kind of the negative way of learning. Punishment is pretty much negative, right? It's using some sort of action or force to control behavior. It's like training your dog not to do something, right? If they do something wrong, then maybe the punishment is that they don't get any treats that day or whatever. But discipline is very different in its morals from punishments. And in most cases of self-improvement, after a couple months, after you've gone past the initial steps, the first and second steps of self-improvement, then most likely you will have left behind the punishment part of it. You've pretty much begun to use new experiences and learn from your mistakes instead of having to punish yourself for every single thing you do, because you already know that punishing yourself too hard is not the right thing to do. Now, there are some ways that discipline and punishment are interrelated. For example, in order to maintain and manage order in your everyday life, you have to use both. And in order to do that, you have to kind of balance out discipline and punishment, and they have to kind of coexist with one another, and punishment should be on the level of what you did wrong, right? So for example, if for the 5th time today you went and you wanted to go grab an unhealthy snack or something, then what you could do to combat that is to maybe seal the door shut, or force yourself to look at it but not eat it. That's one of the ways that I've learned to control my urges, right? Is if I'm looking at some junk food and I want to eat it really badly, I just take it out and set it down on the counter or wherever and just stare at it like a psychopath. And it usually works. But my point is, punishment should be reasonable. It shouldn't be too harsh, or the lighter it is, the better, honestly. For myself, building discipline is and was a very long and rigorous process. A year ago, I started with taking a cold shower every single night, and I have succeeded in doing that ever since I started. So every single night since beginning of 2023, I've taken a cold shower, and just recently, maybe for the past 2 months, I've attempted showering in the morning with cold water. And I've also been able to do that, but I've had a couple of cheat days where I, instead of using completely cold, I use lukewarm water. But in short, even if you fail, right, I don't punish myself for failing, because I know that through failure I can learn. And even though I'm failing, the majority of the time I am learning, and I am doing better and better. And I'll be completely honest with you guys here. Cold showering, weightlifting, and reading have basically summed up my entire self-improvement journey up until this point, right? It started off with cold showering, and then, around that same time, or maybe a little before that, weightlifting, and then maybe in, May or July or June of this year, I started reading, setting goals to read for myself every single night. But honestly, if you're out there and you're still trying to find ways of building discipline and using punishment lightly but enough to control your urges, then I do wish you the best of luck, and I hope this video has helped. One last thing before I go, you should know that if it was easy, every single person would be doing it. That's what makes us stand out. See you next time.